In this video, we'll go through the procedures and processes in part 1 of MUET speaking. As you are seated in the test room, one examiner, the chief examiner, will guide and give instructions to you. The examiner will hand out your task sheets and writing sheet to each one of you. The task sheet contains info on what you should talk about. Do not write on this. The writing sheet is for you to jot down keywords from the question and your ideas. The examiner might read out to you the topic of your task, then tell you that you have 2 minutes to prepare your presentation. Compared to the old format, this new format no longer allows you to ask questions before the preparation. The examiner then allows you 2 minutes to prepare. Since this is part 1, individual presentation, you'll have to prepare the ideas individually. On your task sheet, at the top, it'll say that this sheet is for which candidate, either A, B, C, or D. Then underneath it, there will be a standard rubric saying part 1, individual presentation, 2 minutes to prepare, and 2 minutes to talk. Then there will be questions in the box below. So analyze these carefully. First, look at the situation. It's a brief statement on the topic or situation that's going to be discussed in the test. All 4 candidates will have the same situation. The topic could be on, but not limited to, people and culture, financial awareness and consumerism, science and technology, health and environment, or education. In this particular test, the situation says it is important to be healthy. Some suggest some ways to keep healthy. And at this point, you could jot down the keywords on your writing sheet in here below. And please do not write anything on the question paper. And here's an example. Next, there will be a statement on one aspect of the said topic for you to talk about. Each candidate will be asked to talk about the different aspects of the topic. And the aspect will be printed in bold. Like in this sample, candidate A's aspect of the topic is the importance of what and when people eat. And at this point, we should already realize that we are asked to 1. Suggest some ways to keep healthy, and 2. Our suggestions should revolve around the importance of what and when people eat. Again, you could jot the keywords down on your writing paper. And you can see one example below. By the way, the aspect or task asked by these questions could either be your suggestion, opinion, solution, or view. With the keywords noted down earlier, gather your ideas and put them into a diagram or mind map to help you see connections. I always recommend my students to use this PEEL framework because we can see our ideas linearly, therefore manage the flow or coherence of ideas throughout our speech. And you may also have to organize your main points in your mind map by labeling or numbering them. For example, the topic, my suggestion, opinion, solution, or view, numbers 1, 2, and 3, and they are PEELs, P-E-E-L, and I'll explain what these PEELs are. And don't forget the summary and your conclusion. Using the PEEL acronym could help us generate ideas and to make sure that we provide all the language functions this test wanted us to do, which are to express opinions, suggestion, solution or view, to give reasons, to elaborate, or to justify. And this will also need your background or cultural knowledge, where you'll use your understanding of how the world works. And this is why you always hear people telling you to read widely or listen to or watch videos on relevant issues, or maybe doing things yourself in order to gain more general knowledge. Now let's start developing our first point. For our point, use clear and specific words so your audience can keep that in mind when following your line of arguments. And then when elaborating the P, the first E, look at the keywords in the P or the point and write sentences with logical details that support, justify, and develop the P. These logical details could either be reasons, explanations, or descriptions. Another way that can help you find ideas is by asking yourself the WH questions: why, how, what, where, or when. For example, why are there foods high in salt and fat? Because it's for convenience and speed. And then you can ask why foods are processed in salt and fat. Because the flavor will be more appealing, or it could extend the shelf life of that product. And next you could ask, what are the effects of having high salt and fat? It can cause high blood pressure and high cholesterol. And for the example or evidence, the second E should be relevant and specific to both P and E above. And here is my example. And then we put in the linking sentence because we want to reinforce our suggestion above. And this also makes sure our point elaboration example just now makes sense and answer the question. And that's my example. And done with point 1, repeat the same PEEL processes for points 2 and 3. And here are my examples. It's also important to include an ending to your speech. This test is also looking at your ability to do these two, to summarize and to conclude. For summarizing, here you summarize the 3 main points you've presented earlier. And then to conclude, here you restate your suggestion and answer the question. When planning our speech, don't write in full sentences. We only have 2 minutes, because if we do write in full sentences, we could fall into these problems later on. One, we're more likely to read from our notes and not speaking out our ideas and lose eye contact to our audience. And second, we couldn't come up with 3 complete ideas or points, because when we're too focused on crafting our full sentences during preparation time, we'll lose time to prepare for other ideas for presentation. We could end up presenting only 1 main idea or having underdeveloped ideas, hence leaving you groping for ideas during the presentation later on. And I agree that not presenting a smooth sentence or not sounding fluent during speech would damage your scores, but presenting half-baked ideas or having only 1 main idea are equally damaging. So I recommend that we quickly prepare all main notes first, ideally 3 main points, 1, 2, 3. Write in short notes and use the keywords provided in the question. Pace yourself. Don't dwell on 1 idea for too long. Then when you've completed all 3 ideas, and if you still have more time, come back and add simple linkers and expressions to help you see their connections later. And the ones in blues are the examples of linkers or expressions that you can use. Use different linkers or expressions to show that you are a proficient speaker. Don't overuse the same expression. For a full list of expressions that you can use in individual presentation, you can visit my MUET Tutor Facebook page to have a look at the full list of these expressions. When preparation is over, the examiner will ask candidate A to present first. First, you could greet the examiners and candidates. Make this short and quick. State the situation and task given. You can combine into 1 sentence. State your first main point, and then give reasons or explanation to convince your audience on the validity of your point. Next, give examples to make your point clearer, and then conclude the point. Repeat the PEEL steps for points 2 and 3. Don't forget to pause a second before you start your new point. And when you've presented all 3 points, summarize all argument you've made so far and conclude your presentation. Remember that your language should be generally formal and you should talk about concrete matters. Of course, you'll be tested for language accuracy, meaning grammar, pronunciation, stress, intonation, and having variations of long and short sentences, and fluency, that is being confident and less hesitations. To improve on this, you will need a lot of speaking practices or have group practice sessions with your friends or teachers. A reminder for other candidates: when one candidate is presenting, don't continue planning for your own points. Listen to what he or she is presenting. And this is important because you can find points that you can relate to when you present later. And you could jot down relevant notes that you think might be useful for the group discussion later. For this, you could take a quick peek at Part 2's mind map by turning over your task sheet. When candidate A has finished presenting their aspect of the topic, the examiner will ask candidate B to talk about their task. Candidate B will have 2 minutes to present. After that, the examiner asks candidate C to do the same. Later, the examiner will ask candidate D to present for 2 minutes. When everyone has presented, the examiner will ask you to turn your task sheet over for the next part of the test. Do watch the next video for Part 2 of MUET speaking test. I'd like to credit these authors as I have referred a lot to their works when creating this video. And for trained teachers or examiners, do fill in the feedback form. I've dropped a link in the description below if you have found discrepancies or errors in this video. And I really appreciate your help in clarifying any concerns raised by our candidates in the comments section below. And for candidates, it's a best practice to check the date of this video to see if it's up to date, and always refer to the MPM website for any updates on MUET.